Welcome to MGS Stories, where each story is crafted to send chills down your spine or inspire your deepest dreams. I'm your host, Sunny Rahman, and today I have a tale that might make you question the finality of death. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring the bell to never miss out on our high-quality, unique stories. Let's dive right into today's spine-tingling narrative. John Parker was just an ordinary man living in a quiet suburban neighborhood in upstate New York. After a long day at work, he would come home to his modest two-story house where the memories of his late wife, Emily, lingered in every room. It had been 2 years since Emily passed away in a tragic car accident, but the wound in John's heart was still fresh, bleeding silently with every passing day. Emily was his anchor, his true north. Losing her felt like losing a piece of himself, and no matter how much time passed, he couldn't shake the feeling that she was still with him, somehow watching over him. One stormy evening, John sat alone in the dimly lit living room, the rain pattering against the windows. He glanced at the clock. It was 11:45 p.m. Normally, he'd be in bed by now, but something kept him awake. Maybe it was the storm, or maybe it was the gnawing emptiness in his heart. Just as he was about to turn off the TV and head upstairs, his phone rang. The sound echoed through the silent house, startling him. Who could be calling at this hour? John hesitated before picking up. The caller ID was blank, just a series of zeros. Curious, he answered. "Hello?" he said cautiously. There was a long pause, the kind that makes your skin crawl, and then a voice he knew all too well whispered through the static, "John." John's heart nearly stopped. It was Emily's voice, soft, familiar, filled with the warmth that he had longed for every night since her passing. But how? It couldn't be her. She was gone. "Emily?" John stammered, his voice trembling. "Is this really you?" "John, listen to me," Emily's voice said, a hint of urgency creeping in. "You need to leave the house, right now." John was frozen in place, his mind reeling. "What are you talking about? How is this possible? Where are you?" "You don't have time to ask questions, John," she replied, her voice growing more insistent. "You're in danger. Please, just trust me. Leave the house and don't look back." John's mind raced. Was this some sort of cruel prank? But who would do such a thing? And why did the voice sound so unmistakably like Emily's? Every instinct in him screamed that something wasn't right, but there was also a small, desperate part of him that wanted to believe it was her, warning him from beyond the grave. "Emily, I don't understand. What danger?" John asked, his voice barely a whisper. There was a crackle of static on the line, and then her voice came through again, softer this time, almost pleading. "Please, John, I love you. Just go." And with that, the line went dead. John sat there, the phone still pressed to his ear, his mind racing. His heart ached with the longing to hear her voice again, to have her back, but fear gnawed at his gut. What if this wasn't Emily? What if it was something pretending to be her? Thunder rumbled in the distance, and the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness for a brief moment. That was all it took for John to make up his mind. He grabbed his coat and keys, not even stopping to put on shoes, and rushed to the door. As he reached for the doorknob, he heard something, a soft creaking sound, like footsteps on the wooden floor above him. He froze, his hand hovering over the doorknob, his breath caught in his throat. The creaking continued, slow and deliberate, moving toward the staircase. John's blood ran cold. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up, and he could feel the weight of unseen eyes watching him. He had to go, now. John yanked the door open and stumbled out into the pouring rain. He didn't stop until he was in his car, his hands shaking as he fumbled to start the engine. As the car roared to life, he glanced back at the house. For a moment, everything was still. The only sound was the rain pounding against the windshield. Then, from the second-story window, the window of what had been Emily's room, he saw it. A shadowy figure, dark and formless, staring down at him. And in that moment, John knew. Whatever was in that house, it wasn't Emily. With a shudder, he tore his eyes away and sped down the road, leaving the house and the terrifying figure behind. As he drove, the phone in his pocket buzzed again. His heart skipped a beat. He pulled over and hesitantly took out the phone. The screen was blank, just like before. With trembling fingers, he answered. "John?" The voice was still Emily's, but now it was filled with sadness. Thank you for trusting me. I love you." Before he could respond, the call disconnected, leaving John in stunned silence. For a long moment, he sat there in the car, drenched in sweat despite the cold. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, the storm moving on, but the storm inside John was far from over. He knew he could never go back to that house. Whatever had taken Emily from him was still there, waiting, lurking. And it was only because of her warning that he was still alive. With a heavy heart, John turned the car around and drove away, leaving behind the place he once called home, but which had become something far more sinister. And that's the chilling tale of the phone call. What would you do if you heard the voice of a loved one calling you from beyond the grave? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want more spine-tingling tales, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to MGS Stories. Every day, we bring you high-quality, unique horror and motivational stories designed to keep you on the edge of your seat. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the past isn't as far behind us as we think.